This number might hold some secrets of the universe. 1 over 137 likely means nothing to you and could be considered insignificant. It's a ratio like hundreds, thousands, in fact, even an infinity of others. Still, 1 over 137 is uniquely special. Some thinkers, among the most mystical, see in this number the manifestation of God, who refuses to sign his name. While many founders of quantum mechanics consider it one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the universe. This magic number that no one has yet managed to decipher. And it's even so special that it can be seen as a kind of universal word. A common language point to use if you want to start a conversation with extraterrestrials. So what's so strange about this number 1 over 137, which to the decimal is written like this, a number? So small and seemingly insignificant, yet some of the greatest physicists have obsessed over it to the point of frustration. Let me try to explain it to you. When unraveling the universe's mysteries, you focus on the values of the natural forces you study. You wonder why this force has this specific magnitude rather than a different one. And when you do that, inevitably, one of them keeps bothering you, almost seeming suspicious, the famous 1 over 137. The first time we came across it was at the beginning of the last century. By studying the unique spectral signatures, the nature of the light emitted by electrons as they move from one energy level to another within atoms. We realized by looking closely at the details of these spectra that each ray we thought was unique is actually made up of two very slightly different energy levels, and that the slight energy difference between these fine lines is invariably a multiple of 1 over 137. Its nickname is alpha, which we call the fine structure constant. If alpha had only appeared at the level of the structure of spectral lines, we probably wouldn't have given it much more importance than that. But as we became more interested in the behavior of light and matter, this number started to pop up just about everywhere, and no one really understood why. We gradually realized that 1 over 137 appears in a myriad of phenomena. For example, you find it by dividing the orbital speed of an electron by the speed of light. In other words, in a hydrogen atom, an electron in its ground state moves around the nucleus at 1 over 137 of the speed of light. In the same way, if you measure the repulsive energy between two electrons, you find that it is 137 times weaker than that of a photon, with a wavelength equal to the distance between those two electrons. We could keep giving examples like this for a while, because alpha is at the heart of the processes that hold matter together. Its value governs the way electrons exchange or share with each other. It dictates to charged particles how to interact, whether they should bond, repel, unite, or repel each other. It is what determines which types of atoms or molecules have the right to exist. It determines how quickly an excited electron emits a photon and the likelihood of emission. In short, alpha governs the realm of the electromagnetic force. And we always end up finding it again, sooner or later, when we look into the behavior of both light and matter. So the influence of this number can be felt at the level of the infinitely small, as well as on scales as gigantic as those of stars and galaxies. Because at the center of the sun, where the hellish pressure and temperature conditions force atomic elements to fuse, alpha is also king. The thing is, there's absolutely no reason for things that seem as diverse and varied as they can be. Subatomic particles' interactions with each other, light, and the quantum vacuum are all linked by a single number, 1 over 137, which consistently appears in these interactions. A number that also seems to come out of nowhere. To paraphrase the great physicist Richard Feynman, it would have been stranger to find values that were simple multiples of 1, 2, 3, or pi when comparing these interactions. A connection with circles, yes, but with 1 over 137. And it's partly this strangeness that leads some physicists to say that this small number might actually be hiding something much, much bigger than itself. In the great edifice of theoretical physics, alpha could be a giant and essential being, a throne in the middle of the room, and to whom people are assigning a key role in the search for the hypothetical Holy Grail. A grand unified theory that hopes to one day connect the theories of relativity, electromagnetism, and quantum mechanics to create one unified theory. So, in this quest, 1 over 137 could be a kind of key that opens new paths to a deeper understanding of reality. And then, the fine structure constant is also marked by another oddity. In fact, this constant isn't really a constant. We have indeed been able to measure it by closely studying the properties of light coming from extremely active galaxies located 11.4 billion years away. Light from us shows that A's value has remained constant since that distant era. But if this value is currently 1 over 137 everywhere we look, it's because the universe we observe is relatively cold. But it is believed that near the Big Bang, when there were infernal temperatures at the very beginning of the universe, this was not the case. Alpha's value would have been roughly 1 over 127. In fact, it is believed that alpha evolves, and as the temperature rises to reach billions upon billions upon billions of degrees, its value tends to approach 1. So the question becomes, did alpha suddenly drop when the universe cooled down as it expanded? Why did this drop stop at this value and not another one? Why didn't alpha go even lower? When you think about it, it's extremely strange to have chosen to stop there. Based on what we know, there's no reason for the drop to stop precisely at 1 over 137. The only thing we're really certain of is that we should be glad that alpha stopped there. Because if the fine structure constant, whose value dictates the size and behavior of atoms, were even slightly different from what it is, neither you nor I would be here. In fact, it's been calculated that changing it by even a small 4% up or down, the value of alpha would make it impossible for much of the world as we know it to exist. If the fine structure constant were 4% higher than its current value, stars would never have been able to make elements heavier than helium, and all the elements essential to life, such as carbon, oxygen, or phosphorus, to name just a few, would be practically absent from our universe. The size of atoms would also be reduced. And the electrons would be so tightly bound to nuclei that forming chemical bonds, and thus molecules, would be nearly impossible. On the other hand, if A were 4% below its current value, the electrons would have such weak bonds with their nuclei that the atoms would become highly unstable, while the stars, burning the candle at both ends, would see their lifespans plummet dramatically. An idea that personally doesn't really excite me that much. Finally, if the value of A had continued to drop to the point of approaching zero, then the universe would have been devoid of the matter we know as well as any form of light. In short, every time, even changing, even a slight change in A would drastically alter the entire universe. So once again, why did the value of A stop there? Well, we absolutely don't know. Even more troubling than its 1 over 137 value A is linked to magic. It's a dimensionless physical constant. All the fundamental constants of nature have values that are expressed with units. The speed of light is in meters per second. The charge of a particle such as the electron is in coulombs. Vacuum permittivity is measured in farads per meter and Planck's constant in joules per second. For alpha, it's different because its value is a ratio of major natural constants with units that cancel out. In the end, only 1 over 137 remains, a pure number needing no unit. Being pure doesn't make alpha extraordinary in itself. There are many pure numbers found in nature. You only need to compare two values with the same units to find the ratio. Yet the fact that alpha is unitless adds another layer to its mystery. Understand that the units of nature's constants reveal what they describe. For example, the speed of light, measured as distance per time, shows the close link in our universe between space and time. But the fact that 1 over 137 is unitless, even though it comes from mixing things as different as the electron's charge, the speed of light, and Planck's constant, seems to suggest that we're missing something essential. It's as if something exists beyond what our current knowledge allows us to see. A strong link between these fundamental constants. And here we are again, back to the beam in the middle of the room, the quest for grand unification. In any case, if there is a logical explanation for the value of 1 over 137, we simply haven't found it yet. Maybe this number contains, buried within it, a large part of the explanation that would allow us to understand the origin of the rules of the game in our universe. As Heisenberg seemed to think, a giant among geniuses and a pioneer of quantum mechanics, who believed that the day we are able to explain the deep reason for this number in a logical way, without nature revealing it to us through our experiments, then all major physics mysteries will be solved instantly. Or we could just as well consider that alpha actually tells us nothing special, since 1 over 137 could just be a coincidence. A happy coincidence without meaning, whatever the case, whether its value was set by pure chance. Was luck at the Big Bang caused by violent quantum fluctuations or hidden dimensions, as string theory suggests? The fact that alpha has such a particular value could explain that there are millions of other universes elsewhere, multiverses, in which the value of alpha is different. If this question interests you, I refer you to the episodes on multiverses, with links below the video. So far, no vision has prevailed. For those who prefer a religious or mystical view, I feel obligated to paraphrase again. Richard Feynman wasn't a believer, but enjoyed catchy phrases. He said 1 over 137 remains one of physics' greatest mysteries. And even if it's the hand of God that drew this number, that doesn't explain at all why the pen he wrote with took this direction. Alpha, discovered over a century ago, remains a mystery. Even if the deeper reason for this number is never known, discovering 1 over 137 might someday help us communicate with possible extraterrestrials. Imagine that you had to send an encoded number in the form of a signal out into the cosmos, hoping that it would be picked up and, above all, understood by a civilization other than ours. In that case, you have every reason to choose alpha. The fact that you know it shows that you have taken the time to study the world around you in depth. Above all, as we've seen, this number exists independently of measurement units, unlike other great constants of nature. Its value is not associated with a unit of distance, time, mass, or electric charge. If you choose, for example, to send extraterrestrials the precise value of the speed of light, you need, for them to understand your message, to be able to explain to them what it means to you. A meter and a second. Choosing the gravitational constant means you must define the kilogram. But for alpha, once again, it's different. The fine structure constant is a pure unitless number, so it's independent of any measurement. And so we can think that, whatever units of measurement are used, whatever their way of thinking or quantifying, extraterrestrials will likely encounter 1 over 137 or its inverse eventually. Period, open quotation marks, we can start discussing. In 1958, while he was waiting in a hospital room to be operated on for pancreatic cancer, the renowned physicist Wolfgang Pauli, who viewed the fine structure constant as crucial for understanding theoretical physics' deepest issues, inquired. His room number was 137 hours later. The operation would prove fatal. It is sometimes tempting to see in events Kabbalistic coincidences of a mystical order. But if you look too hard for similarities with everything and anything, you end up finding them. By the way, I imagine you'll be happy to learn that, in gematria, by adding up the numerical value of the letters in the word K-A-B-A-L, you get exactly 137. Except that nature doesn't give a damn about the beauty of numbers. And now we know that the value of alpha, which since its discovery has become one of the most studied constants in physics, is not exactly 1 over 137, but this number here. Since the start of this video, every time I said 1 over 137, I really should have said 1 over 137, 0.359999206, but that would have been tedious. And with such measurement precision, a large part of the mystical speculations have just been buried with a heavy shovel. Almost a century after its discovery, 1 over 137 still challenges our understanding. Countless great thinkers have tackled it, leaving behind many neurons and a few colorful sleepless nights. And yet, so far, no one has managed to crack it. The reason for this mysterious value. Of all the remarkable numbers, this one might just be at the very top of the podium. And even if you only understood 1/1537th of this video, I hope Alpha has managed to take you on a little journey in the company of great minds. May this value circulate on Earth and very likely elsewhere in the universe as well.